Hello and welcome back. In this video we're going to take a look at how to create, save, and share personal maps in Google Maps. So if you look at the upper right hand corner, you can see I'm logged into an account. This is necessary if you want to actually save these maps. So to get started, we're going to go to the upper left, find the hamburger, and go to Your Places. Once in Your Places, you're going to see four options: labeled, saved, visited, and maps. We'll work our way right across so you can see what your options are in each case. First, you see that there's a home and a work address that are saved. These are established by default, so I can't get rid of these options, although I don't need to populate them with data. The advantage of populating these labeled places with data is that on a mobile device, if I'm out and I'm using Google Maps, they're just going to automatically be available to me. So in other words, if I was somewhere and I wanted to go from there to home, say, I wouldn't have to type in my home address when I got my directions. I could simply click on home and it would populate that information for me. So if you want to add additional labels to home and work, there are two ways to do it. One is basically to click on a location that's already established on Google Maps. So if I wanted Ramapo College of New Jersey, that's already a link. So I can click on that. It will bring me to all the information about Ramapo, and if I scroll down a little bit, there's going to be an add a label option. When I click it, I need to provide the information and then say add a label. And now, if I go to Your Places, you'll see that that's listed as one of those places, and that will be a stored address that becomes available to me when I'm using maps with this particular label. Now, if you're not lucky enough to have a spot that already has a link, that's fine. You simply click anywhere on the map, and you're going to establish a pin. Okay, it's going to find the closest address. So right now this is 17-1 Washington Lane in Mahwah. And you can see that when I have that pin selected, the information box at the bottom comes on. And if I click the link, the name here is going to become a link. I'm going to get, there's not a lot of information about this place, but there is an add a label option. So I am going to just say random place there. And I will add that as a label. Again, hamburger, Your Places. And now I've got these four options. Now if I decide I don't want some of those options, I can simply remove them. So this random place, I'm just going to click the X and it'll be gone. And my advice to you would be, when using these labeled places, is to keep them to a minimum, to keep them to those places that you use very, very regularly, such as home or work, or if there are others you can add a couple. But that way it won't become cluttered and it'll be more useful to you. Now, if I do go to delete either my home or work address, what's going to happen is that this is not going to delete, but it's going to wipe out the contents. So right now there's nothing under my work address, and if I wanted to create something, I'd have to open that up and put an address in there. So let me just, that's a previous search that I did, so I'll say that's my work address for now. And now it's populated and it'll work for me as I've described. Okay, next on the list is saved. If you click on saved, you'll see right now there are three lists. In those lists, if I click on them, I'm not going to find anything because I haven't added anything to those lists as of yet. Okay, so you can see that. You can manage your lists and the places within your lists. So let me just scroll out a little bit here and say, let's just say I would like to put Ramapo College of New Jersey in my favorites. Okay, so what I can do is I can save it, and it's going to ask me now where I want to put that. Do I want to put it in a starred place, want to go, or favorites? So I'll just say favorites. And here is Ramapo Valley Reservation, a good place to go hiking. So I'll save that one into my favorites. And now if I do go to Your Places, it's really my places in this case, and go to saved and go to favorites, These are just quick links for me to get around to some of those places that I've bookmarked, basically. You know that I want quick access to. If I want to adjust my list, when I'm here, when I click Save, then I see my different lists. I can come in here and I can say Edit Lists. So I use the 3 dots over on the right, click on Edit, and now you can see I have the 2 places that I've saved. I could actually put my own notes in here. Okay, so I could put notes in there, but if I do want to remove something from that list, that's very, very easy. I just click the X and it's gone. And then that list will be empty. We'll have only one thing, and if I clicked it again, it will be empty, of course. Now I can also just click Add a Place here, and I can do a search directly for a place. So I can say Sunny and, oh, sorry. There's a restaurant, and now they're both on there. So if I go back here, I can see now I've got Sunny and Tony's restaurant as well as Ramapo Valley reservation. So a couple of different ways to add to your list. Now, if you do find something that you want to bookmark, but these kind of don't do it for you, you want to create your own list, let's do that again. So let's come in here and I'm going to search for Sunny and Tony's again. Okay, and I found that on the map, and I click it, and now I want to save it. You can see whenever you do create a list, you have this option to create a new list over here. It's showing a check, so it's showing me that it's already in my favorites, but I want it on a new list. I want it on and I'm going to create that as a list. And now you can see it's saved 2 times, so I probably don't want that. That's probably not the best organizational strategy there. But if I do come to saved, you can see favorite local restaurants is now here. Sunny and Tony's is now on it. And I could just go into favorites over here and edit my list to remove it from that list. Okay, so a good way to just organize your favorite maps or your favorite places. You do have a couple of other options with these. So here's my, I think this is really a great list, and maybe I've got a whole bunch of restaurants and I don't want to keep them to myself. I could go to Share List, and here I could make this list public, so now everybody in the world, Google will find my list. I mean, it's not likely with the amount of content, but it's possible you could search for and find this list. Or you could simply share it with this link, and you can do that through Facebook, Twitter. As I've said previously, Google Plus will be going away for a lot of users, so I might not do that. But you can also just email this to somebody, and it's fine. Let me put it back on private for a second. And the other option, which can be a little confusing, this says Share List, and then it says Sharing Options. So sharing options is just a way to set a global share on it. And I could have done that through the other option as well, so this is a little repetitive. But here, if I put it on shared, anyone with the link can see it. If I do it on public, it just becomes searchable. So there you go. And then I copy this link. Okay, so copy the link, and then I can email it to somebody. So I have fewer options. I can't come in here and directly put it on Twitter or Facebook. Whereas if I go to Share List, notice it's shared. The settings have changed. It's because I did it through that other link, and I just have some more options here. It's kind of 2 ways of almost doing the same thing, one with more options. Okay, if I don't like this list, I can always delete it. You'll note that if I come to some of these other lists, I don't have that option. I can edit them, I can hide them, change sharing options, but I can't delete them because these are the basics, the default options that come with maps. Next, we have the Visited tab, which I am not going to address in any kind of detail. If you really want to see where you visited and if your location services were on, you can check your timeline, and that will give you, a detailed and more accessible view. Okay, that brings us to maps. As you can see, I've stored a series of maps in this section, but let's look at creating a new one. So I'm going to say see, go to the bottom, see all your maps, and that's going to open up this additional area. These are my existing maps, and here's the option to create a new map. So let's start by taking a look at what a map might look like. So here's one that was created in 2015. I'm going to open that one up, and I'm now in an area where I can add features to a map and save it. The types of things that can be added are pins to mark locations, driving directions to show connections between locations, and you can also add just lines, there's a couple of examples, or polygons to this. Then you can save the map, and of course you can share this map with other people. So let me come back here. Other options you have, here's an untitled map, so I'm going to see what options I have for that. Oh, I could move it to the trash, I could make a copy of it, or I could open it. So I'm just going to move that one to the trash. And I'm going to move this one to the trash. These are basically two of the same. You can see that this is, it's AT shelters, so these are shelters along the Appalachian Trails. Okay, let's create a new map. So click the Create New Map button. It's going to bring you to this map here, and you can search for a location that you'd like to map out. So here I'm going to say okay, Rome, Italy, and it brings me to a map. I'm going to close that for now. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, see if I can find something interesting, which shouldn't be too hard. Okay, there's the Colosseum. So I'm going to click, this is the Colosseum, and I'm going to add that to my map. Now, let's take a look at the information on the left. First of all, up at the top you have untitled map, so I want to change that. I can click on it and I can say Tour of Rome, Italy, and I can give a little description. This tour includes highlights of some of the must-see attractions in Rome, Italy. There we go. Okay. Oh, evidently it wants me to highlight must-see, or to hyphenate. There you go. So now you can see that I have a title and a description up at the top. All changes are saved in Drive, so these maps are actually going to be saved as files in your Google Drive. So if you notice them appear there, you know, don't be surprised. And while I'm clicked on that point, let me change the position a little bit here. You can see that the information that was already available for the Colosseum has been added in here. And perhaps in this case I don't want that, so I'm just going to remove it. Okay, I've got the Colosseum listed up here. If I click Edit, I could change that. I could also add a description in here. And save it. Okay, other options you have while you're here, while you're selected on this pin, would be to change the color of the pin. Okay, you can see that changed. You can change some of the popular icons. So I can say that, I'm going to say that in my tour, this little house means places you should visit, and maybe this will mean restaurants or something along those lines. More icons, you can go in there and you can find additional icons, or you can use the custom icon button to import them. So if you download an icon set from the internet, you can import those into maps and use them here. There are older icons listed, and you can also search by category, and you have those categories for older icons and also for newer icons. So I'm just going to cancel out of here. Okay, in addition, you have this image or video link. So when you click here, you can add an image. You can do it from, you can upload an image directly from your computer. So here I'll pop over here and I'll say Coliseum. Oh, misspelled that. But luckily, I'm not going to worry about it because Google is very good at picking those up. I'm going to go to Images. To do this correctly, I should go to Labeled for Reuse, so I'm not violating anyone's copyright. And I like this image, except that it's huge. If I mouse over that, you can see 4,827 pixels. That's kind of a big file. Not to take too much time, let's take this one. I'm going to save that. I'm a little slow this morning. And I'll call that Roam 1, Roam 01. Okay, so I've got that in a particular folder. Now when I select files from my computer, I can find it by starting the name since I know what it is, and upload that directly in there. So now I have a nice, nice image there. Somebody clicks on it, they're going to see an image of that. I can click the plus sign, and I can go get more. So I could use a webcam, I could use an image URL, I could go to my photos. I can also go to YouTube. So I'm going to, well, that's a YouTube URL. So in that case, I'm going to have to go to YouTube. I'm going to search that. Ancient Rome in 20 minutes. That looks like a good one. I am going to go to Share and grab that URL. Paste it right in there and select it. So now when somebody comes into that point, they'll start with this nice image, but they'll have the option to go to this video and save. Okay, directions we're going to handle in a different way, and then there's also delete feature. So if you no longer want it on this map, if you don't want this Colosseum, you can just open it and delete it directly from here if you like. Okay, now we have one point on our map, but while we have a name, a good intuitive name for the overall map, we don't have one for the layer. Now you can do multiple layers, and generally you do that to put in points of interest in one layer and maybe driving directions if you want those in another layer. A lot of different ways to do it, to organize it, but let's come to the layer itself and rename it. And we'll say save. Okay, and now I've got a lot of my housekeeping done. At the bottom, there's a base map feature. So I have the standard map here, but if I want, I could switch that over and get this nice satellite image map. And there are some other choices as well. That's more of a topographical, topographical features included in there. These are just different styles of map. Perhaps I'm going to leave it on this one for now. Okay, let's say that I wanted to add an additional feature. So there's the, let's say that I wanted to add this basilica. So I can simply click on there, add it to the map. Again, come in here, change whatever color I want, change an icon if I choose to. I'm going to remove it, and I'm not saying you have to remove this information, but that's one thing you can do. I'm going to edit this, and this is where, and previously I didn't put a lot of text in here, but here's where I could give a lot of information over to my students. Okay. I can, put multiple paragraphs in here. This is a great way to pass information, or it's a great way for your students, honestly, to pass information back to you. So let me save that for a second. And this is the, move it a little bit so I can see it. Okay, so maybe here's a website that I want to share with somebody. How am I going to get a link to this website into, well, let me go back and get a better one. It's a little slow. And I can just copy that address, bring it back, edit this information. And put a link in there. When I save this, that'll become an active link. So when somebody actually sees this, they'll be able to click on it and bring them right out to that site. Okay, so you can see now how you could pass a lot of information on. I haven't added an image here, and I'm not going to go through that process again, but that's something that I should do. I should download an image of this so that when somebody opens it up, they're provided with both visual and textual information. You can use the preview button, and this will show you what your user will see. Okay, so there's a Colosseum in Rome with one photo. Santa Posada. There's my description. There's a link that opens up. So this is the user experience. What my user is going to see. Okay, there's a share option here. So this is where you can share it with individual people. You can give them view or edit privileges. In your district, you should check to see if groups are available to you, so you could share it with an entire group of people to make that a little easier. But your other option is simply to come in here and say anyone with the link, or if you're in the G Suite district, which most of us are, anyone with the link from within the district. Those are good options. And then people are going to get access to it, especially if it's not something that has any sensitive information. Now let's take a look at some of your options at the toolbar up on top. So let's just say that you wanted to point out a great ice cream shop that's just right in this area, but it's not something that's listed already with a tag. So in order to do that, you can simply click on the Add Marker button, find your location and click on it, and it will pop you up. It'll pop you up a box to do the exact same information that you were doing with pre-established sites. Okay, you can do the same thing. You can add a picture here, you can add text, you can add links. So very useful. And it just adds it as if it were any other point that you'd picked on the map. When you do that, you're going to get this full set of tools. You can trash it here, you can add the images, you can go back and edit it. Just a way to add those points. Now, if you don't want this point, you can always click on it and hit the trash over here to remove it. Okay, other things that you can do is you can use this line tool, and you can add a walking, or you can add the line itself, and we'll look at how to add a driving route or a bike route or something in just a minute. But if you're selected on add line or shape, you can just say, as the crow flies, I'll just double click that, make it a single. So you can see that this line has been added. I can edit that to say, And there, you can see that that distance is 0.99 miles. Okay, so very close, very close to a mile exactly. That's as the crow flies. If I didn't want to do that, I could go back to the tool and I could actually, you know, follow a route. You know, I'm not doing a very good job here, but let's just say that that's the route I want. When you get to the end, double click, it's gonna select it. A little hard to get because the line is something. Well, I can zoom in, that'll make it easier. Okay, when I edit that, I have some different options with a line. I'll call this and when I do go into the paint bucket here, I can adjust the line width as well as the color. So those are very handy features if you are drawing a line on the map itself. So there you go. That might be a bit excessive, but depending on how far you're zoomed in or not zoomed in, it makes more or less sense. Okay, the other option that you can do with this draw a line is to actually make it into a shape. So let's just say that this is maybe a park or something. So I can draw the contours of that, come back to my original dot and double click, and now what I have is a polygon. So park. A little information about the park, maybe a hyperlink, save it. I can go back and add a picture to it or multiple pictures or videos. I can always edit that. If I come into here, I can set a transparency level on the polygon to see how dark or light, how much of it's going to show. And I can put a border width on there to make it stand out a little more. I can change the color. So little visual adjustments to make it more usable. Now, if you look here, it's going to show you both the perimeter and the area. So, nice tool that you can use with students when students are doing their own work. There we go. A nice tool for them to be able to do some mathematical calculations and to get a sense of how big or how much area a place that they're working with actually entails. Okay. The last one here is to add directions. Well, I should say the second to last one. This tool, just so that you know, is a quick tool, works a lot like the line tool, and it allows you, you can see it's updating my distance there. And now it's got my area, so it's giving me an area and a perimeter. But this is temporary. This is a tool you can use to make calculations, but it's not going to save with the map. So, you know, users aren't going to be able to see this. If you want them to see it, you're going to use this polygon, draw a line polygon tool over here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about adding layers. Now I could just click the Add a Layer button here, and that would make a lot of sense if I was going to just add a separate grouping of attractions, but I'm going to try it up here. So I'm going to say Add Directions from the link up there. Notice what it really did was it added a layer, separate layer, because these driving directions can't be in the same layer as these points. They have to be two different ones. I can start by renaming the layer. Okay, and so I've renamed it, and directly in here, in this box, I can search for the location I'd like to start with. So I want to start down there at One Church. Okay, so it's showing me now how to get from St. Peter's Basilica, how to drive across to the Pantheon in Rome. I can add an additional destination here. let's see, is that the right one? There you go. And so now it's, whoa, wow, it's driving me all the way around here and taking me down. Let me zoom out there a little bit. Okay, so there are my driving directions. If I don't like the order, if I want to add something and maybe insert it midway or whatever, I can always just click on these and drag them around. So now I'm going from St. Peter's to St. Paul's and back up to the pen. If you mouse over any of your stops, you see you do have edit options, and that's simply so that you can change the name of the location. It's, you know, your formatting options, etc., are extremely limited here. Under the layer, you can delete the layer if you don't want it. You can rename the layer. And basically, that's how you build your Google map. Remember to share it. The sharing options are the typical options you'd have in a Google Drive environment, and that will give access to your students to view it. Now, what I would like to keep in mind is that we've been approaching this from the building a map perspective ourselves, and that's one way to do it, to distribute information, to package information for students. But remember that students should be able to do this also, and I think there's a lot more power in having them look at this alternate representation or alternate way to organize and distribute information to other people. I think it's a good tool for use in that way.